French villages, golden bridges, ancient city. What? Welcome to Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Kim from K&R Journeys, and welcome to our second port of call on our Vietnam and Thailand cruise, Da Nang. And as I'm having a sip of coffee and enjoying as we're pulling in, I can see that there's a lot of cargo ships, and there's nothing much else around us other than the cargo ships in a canopy jungle. And as I look down, I can see a lot of security, to say the least, which really made me feel like, where the heck are we? But it was beautiful. And because of the size of the ship and the class of the ship, this was the only dock that could accommodate us. So that was amazing. It was incredible to see. It just really was something I've never seen before. So we made our way off the ship for 8:45 a.m. meet our driver and tour guide that took us off to the Ban Na Hills. We arrived finally after a short 2-hour, or maybe a little less, trip to Ban Na Hills to the cable car station. And we did manage to beat the bus tours, which was great because that was going to avoid longer lines. And because we did have a private guide, we did manage to get up to the lines rather quickly, or the front of the line rather quickly. We got onto the cable car, and as we were climbing our way up to the top of the mountain, being amongst the clouds, the aerial views were spectacular. We saw rivers, we saw waterfalls, the plush green trees, and the guide mentioned to look for some swinging tree monkeys, which I did manage to see 1 or 2 of them, which was really fun. And I was happy to see because I didn't believe them, but we did see them. And as we're climbing up, the guide had mentioned about the cable car holding a world record, longest non-stop cable ride. So after an exciting cable ride, we got off and we began our journey walking through beautiful gardens and statues. Along the way, there were vendors that provided food and drinks, so if you wanted to grab a quick snack, you were able to. Going through the gardens and statues were magical and mystical. As we approach this bridge, I see these massive hands just holding this beautiful golden bridge. Even with the clouds, you could just see how spectacular this is. Just cannot explain it enough, that the beauty of these hands holding this beautiful golden bridge. As we are on the bridge, we are in the midst of the clouds and surrounded by a lot of other people trying to capture the perfect picture moment, our guide worked so hard to capture that for us. And he did manage to do very well. However, I will say you really do not capture the moment unless you are just there. It's just spectacular. To be there and see and be in the clouds is nothing but amazing. As we made our way off the bridge, our guide just took us over to see the Shakyamuni Buddha, which was incredible. I never felt so small in my life. And as I looked up, I just wanted to say thank you, for this Buddha represents prosperity and protection of the locals in the city, which made me feel really good. So I just wanted to give a thank you to the Buddha. As we continued on, we came across the Happy Buddha, where you stop to rub his belly for good fortune. We saw little creations in the trees. This was so creative and so magical to see. As we make our way to the Funicular, we are in the lobby, and to our surprise, we're really the only ones there. So kudos to our tour guide who got us up there to beat the crowds and made perfect timing. Stepping off, immediately so impressed with the 19th century European style architecture, which included Gothic art, such as a giant hand and man formation appearing to come right out of the rocks. The French village had so much to see. Not only the art, there was the gorgeous Luna Castle. Coming into the center of the village was fun. There were hotels, restaurants, and shops. It was so exciting. Even though we saw and did so much in a short period of time, there were still so many things that we did not see or do. So perhaps there is a future trip to plan staying at the French village in one of their beautiful hotels. So as we end our tour in Bana Hills and seeing the beautiful Golden Bridge, the flowers, the Buddhas, making our way to the French village, we have to say goodbye to Bana Hills. The cable car took us back down to our driver with a nice, cool SUV, air-conditioned car waiting for us, making our way to our next stop, which is Hoi An. As we were driving to Hoi An and passing the paddy or the rice paddy fields or rice paddy farms, our driver shared with us his own personal stories as he was a child in the 60s. And I will say it was eye-opening to Rob and I to hear the other side of these historical events that took place during that time. We arrived in Hoi An, and the first thing that we did was get something to eat. Our guide took us to a quaint little cafe where we had a delicious bowl of pho, and it was really good. You could make it spicy or you didn't have to make it spicy. Though Rob and I do like spicy things, So along with that, we enjoyed a fresh local beer. From there, we took a stroll down through the village, or I should say the city street. We came across the local shops and the local fresh markets, which were so great to see. I loved seeing all the hustle and bustle of all the many people. We came across, or I should say, the guy took us to a silk shop. And outside the shop were baskets of these silkworms. And so as we went into the shop, we got to see the silk being extracted from the worms. This was so cool and incredible, and a lot of detailed work that goes into doing this. And as we went through the shop, you could see the beautiful artwork that was made out of the silk, whether it was tablecloth sets to clothing. You could just see all the different art of what they did with this silk. It was just beautiful. After that, we were in need of a little pick-me-up. So we came across this cafe where we had a Vietnamese egg coffee, which is a decadent, velvety coffee. And it was delicious. And it was the perfect pick-me-up. From there, we visited a temple, which led us to an ancient house. And I remember the story that was being told by one of the guides inside of this ancient house, which was where the Hoi River had overflowed after a very large rainstorm, which created the water to overflow into the city, where people took the sampans and went through the alleyways as canals because the water was so high. These floods do not happen often. However, there was a rainstorm that did create high levels of water 5 days prior to our visit. It didn't flood the town, but it did rise high enough where there was great concern. So from there, we made our way just strolling down the streets of Hoi An, and you could see these beautiful lanterns. You can see all the boats in the water, and at nighttime, this actually all gets lit up. And unfortunately, we weren't there to see that, but I can only imagine how beautiful, because during the day, it was already beautiful, and I would love to be able to see this at night. I'm sure it is just simply magical. As we were walking with the guide, it was time to cross a street, and we were out of like the market and going out onto like a main road. And when I tell you these mopeds, there's a million of them, and it sounds like a complete exaggeration, which it is. But when you're standing there and you're trying to cross the street, you just don't want to. So the best thing to do, as the guide said, you go. They're gonna watch out for you, but I'll tell you, it was something to experience. I will never forget it and how scary it was, but I'm here to tell you I'm alive and I made it. We are back in the car making our way back to the ship. However, driver and tour guide have a couple more stops they want to surprise us with. The first stop is bringing us to Da Nang City, and right there was the beachfront. So we got out of the car and stepped onto the beach. Even though it was cloudy and a little rainy and windy, we were thrilled. I will tell you, listening and seeing those waves crashing and just being able to step foot onto the beach there was just beautiful. The main reason the guide wanted us to go there was to look up in the distance on the mountaintops, in the clouds, was this beautiful Lady Buddha of compassion. It was so mesmerizing to see. Even though it was a little bit cloudy, you could still see her up there. Hopping back into the car, we were gonna go make our second stop, which was to a store that sold marble and jade items. And I'll get to that in a second. But behind and alongside of this store was this big, beautiful mountain, which is called the Marble Mountain. And within that mountain, there's caves and tunnels. And our guide shared with us that during the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong used these caves as a hospital. So that's pretty interesting. It's something that we would never know unless we were on this tour with this guide who was so great, so graciously sharing this information. So we went into this store, and it looks like a tiny little store, which has like these gigantic Buddhas out in front, made of marble, just beautiful. And we go into the store, and there's all sorts of things, whether it's jewelry or Buddhas or furniture. But the furniture, when I tell you, I really would love to have a piece of this, but it is these ginormous dining room tables made out of marble, and the chairs, everything is just so brilliantly beautiful. However, Rob and I walked out with our little jade happy Buddha so we could take home and share the good fortune as we're at home all the time. So leaving the store, we got back into the car, and we were now really making our way to the ship. But as we're going, we're crossing over the Dragon Bridge, which is known for its night shows of lights and fire, which I, again, can only imagine how beautiful and spectacular this is something to see during the night. So I do think that we will be making our way back to Da Nang, Vietnam. We made it back to the ship, and whew, what a long day that was, right? So many adventures, so many great experiences, the storytelling, the historical information we received. How magnificent is that? So our next port is Ho Chi Minh City. Woohoo! Cannot wait to share those experiences with you as we continue on with our private journey tours with the Celebrity Solstice going through Vietnam and Thailand. We will see you next time. But before that, if you have any comments, please share them, your experiences, or ask any questions. We will do our best to try to get those answers for you. In the meantime, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.